Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing today? My name is Afanin Nafiah and I'm here to present my research paper under the title The Effectiveness of Problem-Based Learning as a Learning Method During the Covid-19 Pandemic for Dental Students 2020, Universitas Muhammadiyah, Yogyakarta. This presentation will consist of introduction, literature review, research method, result, discussion, and it will be ended by a conclusion. So, problem-based learning or PBL is a teaching method with a focus on real problem solving, a process where students carry out group work, feedback, discussion that can serve as a springboard for investigation and final reports. Currently, the world is experiencing a prolonged pandemic since 2019. This has made all activities diverted from no distance to social distancing. This impact is also felt by various learning methods, including problem-based learning or PBL. Learning methods with this system are considered very effective in solving various cases in the community. However, in the current pandemic, the effectiveness of implementing problem-based learning is questionable. Digital PBL, especially fully online ones, have never been more important until the COVID-19 period. One possible explanation was that students and tutor had to adapt a new way of conducting the PBL tutorial. And none of these studies investigated the effectiveness of problem-based learning during the COVID-19 pandemic among dental students 2020, Universitas Muhammadiyah, Yogyakarta. The purpose of this research is to find out how the views of the 2020 UMY dentistry students towards the implementation of problem-based learning that is carried out virtually, and whether the implementation of problem-based learning that is carried out virtually is considered effective enough to achieve the objectives of the learning. To achieve these goals, there are two main questions used in this research paper as follows. What are the students' views on problem-based learning that is carried out online? And then, is PBL that is implemented virtually effective enough to achieve PBL's goals? Move to the literature review part A, which is the theoretical framework. Now, what is the definition of problem-based learning and problem-based learning in the pandemic era? Problem-based learning is a teaching method in which students learn through the complex and open-ended problems. These problems are real-world problems and are used to encourage students' learning through principles and concepts. On the other hand, problem-based learning in the pandemic era is implemented virtually. Digital problem-based learning was originally introduced as a means to improve students' engagement and increase flexibility. However, its use becomes mandatory during the coronavirus disease, accelerating changes in medical education. And then move to the part B, which is empirical review. As in the research conducted by Aswan and Duruhan 2020 in the research paper, at the end of the research on the basis of the quantitative data analysis, it can be said that according to the last test of the experimental and control group, the virtual learning environment designed on the basis of the problem-based learning approach was more efficient on increasing the academic success and problem-solving skills of the experimental group students when compared to the control group students. Furthermore, as the statement made by Chow et al. 2021, digital PBL, especially fully online ones, have never been more important until the COVID-19 period. Now, on the research method part, this study used a quantitative method to determine the effectiveness of problem-based learning that is carried out virtually. Participants were asked to participate in this study by filling out a questionnaire regarding the effectiveness of virtual problem-based learning in this pandemic era. To obtain the data, I made two criteria that must be met. The first is being a 2020 UMY dentistry student, and the second is being actively participating in problem-based learning in each block with 100% attendance. Then, after that, participants were asked to participate in this study by filling out a questionnaire regarding the effectiveness of virtual problem-based learning in this pandemic era. In the questionnaire, participants were asked to fill in 12 questions by choosing from a scale of 1, that is strongly agree, to scale 5, strongly disagree. Now we are on the result part, starting with the first question, that is I'm an active participant in the implementation of virtual or online PBL tutorials. As can be seen on the pie chart, the results are obtained 34.5% strongly agree that they are active participant in the online PBL implementation, 53.8% agree, 7.7% are undecided, and 3.8% disagree without clear reason. Move to the second question, that is I always read a lot of literature before implementing virtual PBL. Data obtained as much as 26.9% stated strongly agree on the question column, 57.7% agreed. Then for the doubtful and disagreed answer, both were at 7.7%. In the third question, that discusses the use of valid data during discussions such as journal, it is found that a very high number in the agree category is 73.1%, then 19.2% strongly agree, and 7.7% feel doubtful about the validity of the sources used. And then next, move to the fourth question, that is I always express my opinion because I understand the material and not just read it. As many as 15.4% on the participants stated strongly agree, 61.5% of the participants agreed that they understood the material, and 23.1% expressed doubt about it. In the question column number 5, participants were asked for their opinion on the effectiveness of implementing virtual PBL. 34.6% choose strongly agree, 46.2% agree that the implementation was effective, and 19.2% express doubts. In the question column number 6, questions are asked about whether they are active participants in expressing their opinion. Data obtained 7.7% strongly agree. Then in the agree answer column, the number are quite high, that is 73.1%, and 15.4% of them are in doubt, and 3.8% disagree. Participants were also asked questions about the activeness of other members, whether they are also an active member in giving their opinions or not. The results were in the same direction, that is 30.8% strongly agree and 69.2% agree. The thing that most often happens during virtual implementation is networks constraint. On the question, I have a stable network to follow virtual PBL. The result of the research are 3.8% of participants disagree with that statement, 23.1% feel doubtful, 57.7% answer agree, and 15.4% stated strongly agree. And then on the question network problem often occur to me, my friend, and my instructor, 15.4% of participants strongly agree, 57.7% stated agreed, and 11.5% feel doubtful with that statement, and the other 15.4% participant answered disagree about having network problems due virtual PBL. Then, participants were asked for their opinion on whether network disturbance could hinder the discussion and make it less effective. The results were 61.5% of participants chose to agree, 30.8% strongly agree, and the same results were obtained in the doubtful and disagree answer columns as much as 3.8%. The instructor also influenced the success of the discussion. 19.2% of the participants stated strongly agree that the instructor always provides direction and listen to the discussion. 61.5% of them stated agree. 15.4% are unsure or doubtful, and 3.8% stated disagree. Providing feedbacks and reviews by instructor is very helpful in achieving both online and offline PBL goals. 16 of 26 people agree that instructor always provide reviews and feedbacks. 26.9% strongly agree, and 11.5% of participants expressed doubt. Move to the discussion. This study shows the effectiveness of implementing the problem-based learning method virtually. This research raised two research questions, which are: what are the students' views on problem-based learning that is carried out online? And the second, is PBL that is implemented virtually effective enough to achieve PBL's goals? This study shows that the problem-based learning method, which is implemented virtually, is effective in achieving PBL's goals. More than 80% of respondents, to be exact, 80.8% respond positively, that is strongly agree and agree to the effectiveness of PBL which was implemented virtually. However, from their point of view, network problems occur quite often and sometimes reduce the effectiveness of implementing virtual problem-based learning method. As stated by Susanto 2020, many obstacles were encountered, ranging from network errors, lost connection, and a lot of expenses for purchasing internet data package. This affects their interest in learning, so that the quality of their learning also decrease. The effectiveness of implementation of the problem-based learning method virtually can still achieve effectiveness by using appropriate implementation and innovation steps. As in the research conducted by Susanto 2020, the small group discussion method with the problem-based learning model has an effectiveness rate of 96% as a learning model during the Covid-19 pandemic with appropriate implementation steps and innovation. Now for the conclusion, this study concludes that the problem-based learning method that was implemented virtually was effective in achieving the goals. Although there are some problems such as network problems that often occur, it is not a problem because effectiveness can still be achieved with appropriate implementation steps and innovation. In the future, this research could be used as reference for other research to obtain more relevant results. This research is far from perfect. In the future, it is recommended to use qualitative method in order to be able to provide open-ended question and get a detailed explanation from each participant so that more valid result can be obtained. So guys, that's all from my paper presentation. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.